This is going to be Oleg Magaletsky. Everybody knows Oleg. And he is going to have 4 speakers on this panel, all representatives from the Free Nations of Post-Russia or the Free League of Nations. They would introduce themselves and Oleg will introduce them. But please, let's get to the room and let's start. Oleg, you can open. The panelists are going to show up as soon as you start. We have only until 12 o'clock for this panel, so any minute that we're delayed, we're taking from the next panel. We will start with this panel that will finish within an hour. We'll get the next panel immediately without a break. You can get coffee if you wish. We have to finish by 1 o'clock because then we have only half an hour for lunch. And we're going to have Ukraine panel, Ukraine roundtable after that. A few words about this exhibition here, The Real Prisoners of Putin. I'm very grateful to Yuri and Ethan and Dima for bringing it here from Ukraine. It was a product of organization that is Ukrainian organization. The stories and the pictures of people from different nations of Russia that were imprisoned right now, and nobody's talking about them. Nobody's exchanging them for American prisoners, as they did for the members of Russian opposition. There was none of these guys who was put on the list by the American diplomacy as well. Thank you.
Thanks for my time. Thank you for Margarita. She was one of the main co-organizers and Jamestown Foundation and Delphi for having this event in such a day, which in Russia calls the Day of Russia. And we won't give some things, and we'll say that it should be the Day of Post-Russia. We hope probably next year or some later. And we have here a representative of the captive nations, so people who are which nation are still under the Russian colonial control, like it was in previous with Estonian, Poland, Ukrainian, Kazakh, and other people. And we hope that people who are already liberated from this empire, who know what is it in real is, will have people from Buryatia, Ichkeria, Cherkessia, Ingermanlandia, Tatarstan, Sakha, Oirat, Kalmykia, and other captive nations to become free, independent. So let me introduce people who will speak today. Rajana Dugar-Deporte, she is one of the leader of the Committee for Independence for Buryatia. Asset Sab, she is Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria government, still in exile, but it will be changed soon. We have Adel Bashkawi, who is a representative of the Cherkessian movement, who is author and historical. And we have Pavel Ivlev, who represented Free Ingria movement for independent region of such called Leningradskaya Oblast and St. Petersburg region to become also Europe again, like it was before the Moscow conquered this great part of the northern Europe. Our panel the name is Voices of Captive Nations. And we'll have a discussion. I want to ask you to make it practical as it possible, not theoretical, and to speak more about the future, not about the past, about the foresights, and also to remember that we are in United States, and your freedom, your self-determination is not only about your nation, but it's also about the benefits of United States, because it's a real win-win scenario for whole world to destroy this last colonial empire in Europe. So let me begin. The first question is how your nation, that self-determination of your future independent states could probably be win-win also for liberated your peoples and also for the collective global security for United States. Probably it could be the same like it was with USSR after the collapse of all of which we have 30 years better world. But nevertheless, now a lot of people in the United States are thinking that Russia could be the partner. We should speak with Russia. We should make congratulations for them for the Russia Day and so on. So what's the situation now in your countries and how it could be the bridges between your nation and United States and other countries in the world? Asset, you're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Oleg. Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor for me to be here. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. I find it important to remind to everyone that Eurasia is the globe's central arena, and North Caucasus is part of this grand chessboard, and Chechnya is part of this grand chessboard. For long, the West has treated Chechnya and the wider North Caucasus as Russia's backyard, and this perspective, unfortunately, did not change even after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And the truth is that North Caucasus holds immense potential to become a valuable and strategic partner for the United States. Positioned at the crossroads of Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East, the North Caucasus covers 355,000 square kilometers and is abundant in natural resources, including gas, oil, minerals, while also holding vital access to both the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, along with key pipelines originating from the Caspian Basin. So the region could serve as a gateway for American businesses to enter a promising market, rich in natural resources and human capital. So from energy development to infrastructure, technology, and education, the opportunities for mutually beneficial engagement are vast. And when I say the territory of 355,000 square kilometers, it's a huge territory. It's a territory equal to Germany's size. It's a territory bigger than the United Kingdom. It's a territory bigger than Finland, than Vietnam. So there is a potential there, and we see that potential as a force that represents the Chechen government and the force that represents the pro-democracy aspirations of the North Caucasus. We see that potential, and we're looking also that the United States and its allies will see that potential in North Caucasus. Also, I find it's important to say that at the time when China is rapidly expanding its influence to Central Asia, and the United States cannot afford to ignore the other side of the equation, the North Caucasus offers a strategic alternative, a foothold at the intersection of major geopolitical fault lines, and to effectively counter the growing influence of the China, North Korea, Iran axis, the United States must reinforce its presence in North Caucasus, supporting democratic forces and fostering partnerships in the region is not only a strategic necessity, it's a long-term investment in regional stability, security, and defense of shared democratic values. Russia, we're talking about Russia. Russia, like China, is an authoritarian state that seeks greater power, expanded global influence, and absolute control. Its ambition is not partnership, but domination. This is precisely why Russia has launched wars in Chechnya, Georgia, Syria, in Ukraine, in a deliberate effort to reclaim imperial control and undermine international security. This is why some Russian officials even today claim that theoretically the so-called USSR jurisdiction remains in effect. And this shows exactly that such statements show exactly that reflect a broader imperial mindset that directly contradicts US values and strategic interests. Russia's authoritarian ambitions and expansionist policies are fundamentally at odds with democratic governance and regional stability. And that is why Russia is not and cannot be an ally for the United States and to the United States. Also, the United States needs allies that uphold democratic principles, respect the rule of law, support American foreign policy objectives, and contribute to long-term security and stability. The North Caucasus, with its pro-democracy aspirations and resistance to authoritarian rule, represents exactly the kind of strategic partner the US should support. In this context, forming alliances with democratic forces in the North Caucasus, like the Chechen government in exile, led by the Prime Minister of Ahmed Zakayev, is not just desirable, it is essential. So I think it's very important to support for the mutual benefit of the United States and the North Caucasus, and for the mutual benefit of everyone, and for the long-term building peace in the region. It is important to support the pro-democracy movements and the governments that are in North Caucasus that will help to solidify the position of United States and its allies in Eastern Europe and in general in Europe.
Thank you very much, Asad. We also have the question from auditory later. And you mentioned very important issue about this axis of authoritarian regimes of such called Russian Federation. We know that it's not real federation, it's a colonial empire, People Republic of China, Iran, and North Korea. And I want to ask next question for the future representative of future independent Buryatia, which will have neighbors probably not with something which could be the part of new or old Russia, but also with something that could be a part of new old PRC. But we hope it will be Manchuria, not PRC also. Dear Rajana, the question is, unfortunately, nevertheless, that the collapse of USSR was the greatest thing in the 20th century. One war crime said that it was the greatest catastrophe of 20th centuries, but we know that it was the better what were at that time. But nevertheless, people also in the United States don't recognize that decolonization of Russia will not only solve problem with Russia. Yeah, we understand how much problem we have in whole world because of the Russia, not only in Ukraine or Sakartvelo or Syria or Ichkeria or Venezuela, Sahel, Middle East, and so on. But it could be the tool how to prevent the ambition of PRC, because if on the northern border of the People Republic of China, there will be independent Buryatia, independent Siberia, independent Sakha, independent Pacific Ocean, they could be the area for United States and for Japan, but not for the Beijing. So your country, your nation has a strategical interest, not only for all of us and for you, but also for United States. So how probably could you and how could be the role of diaspora, people who represented Buryat nation and live here in the United States, to promote the idea that it's interest both and win-win for not only Buryatia people, not only for Finland, Poland, Ukraine, European Union, but also for United States to have the independent Buryatia and other post-Russian states?
Thank you, Oleg. You already covered part of what I intended to say, but thank you for that, actually. Today is June 12th, which is the day, a holiday in Russia. And I would say it's the most absurd holiday in the world, because it is called the Day of Russian Independence. Independence, yes. What? From what? From itself, I guess, from common sense. If you ask anyone in Russia what they are celebrating, they wouldn't they wouldn't give you a good answer. But the official stance is that they are celebrating independence from Western imperialism. Believe it or not. It's been like that for a long time. I mean, from the very beginning. I will just say a little bit about the history, because Russia as a Western country started to appear in the European world, in the European worldview from Peter the Great. After his European tour, he decided that he would like to create Holland in St. Petersburg. But nothing is further from the truth, further from, if you think about Russia that became even more enslaved with very violent and cruel rule of Peter the Great, like with the peasants being enslaved even more than they were enslaved. And you cannot even compare it with Holland, which was the homeland of the first bourgeois revolution. And if you come to Amsterdam, you will feel it, that the air is permeated with freedom. So Russia was always trying to keep up facade, keep up the appearance of a civilized Western culture, Western country. But in its core, it has always been a despotic and a cruel regime. You know, one of the words that everyone in the world knows is gulag. And you might think that gulag was something in the past, in the 30s, 40s, during the Stalin rule. But gulag is still very much preserved in Russia, because Russian penitentiary system is one of the most barbaric and cruelest system in the world, crushing human spirit. Torture is being practiced every day as a rule. And so if you think that in 30 more years, in like more than 30 years that Russia was, seemed democratic, they could do something at least to reform it, nothing was done. Nothing was done so far. And it just one example of what Russia is. Because, there were, today we heard that there were attempts to reform Russia many times. 30 years ago, it was the last attempt. And the world is giving Russia a chance to reform itself one time after another time. And all these attempts would fail dramatically because of the core, because at the very core of the country, it was actually built on violence. It was built on colonial domination. It was its nature, its colonialism and imperialism. And if something doesn't work, maybe you shouldn't give it a chance again. Maybe you should give the chance to other forces that are willing to reform not the country, but this vast space that is now called Russia. In the 17th century, this vast space from the Urals was actually called not Russia, but Tartaria Magna, the land of the Great Han. Right? It's not, now you think that, Russia was always there. It's like it was always this big empire, but it's not true. It's not true. And you cannot call a country a democratic country unless it is not willing to give the colonies a right to secede. Right now, I'm actually a criminal in Russia. I'm wanted for separatism, for extremism, even terrorism, and I'm just one of the many activists who are now persecuted in Russia. There was also a question about where is the protest? Where are protests in Russia? There are protests, but they are one of the most prominent example was when Bashkortostan was revolting, right? The Baymak events, the protests in Baymak. They were
sorry, General, 1 minute. And we'll,
1 minute, okay. I will just conclude that Buryatia, as Alex said, is in a very strategic place. It always was, and it's been gates of Russia to Asia. We have very strong ties with Mongolia, and we see Mongolia, South Korea, Japan, and the United States as our strong allies in the future. And that's why I think the United States needs to reconsider its view of Russia and, as something that needs to be reformed, but to maybe look at us as a new force that is willing to build democratic state instead of what is in Russia now. And also, we are uniting right now. This is actually, I wanted to say that the forum is called the Forum of Free Nations of Post-Russia, but I don't see S after nations. And I believe it's an honest error. It's just because it's
just mistakes, because of course it's not only
Yes,
post-Russian
yes.
space, it's even not space, but
Yes,
nations, of course.
because there are nations of Russia, and we are willing to cooperate with each other or live in peace and build a peaceful coexistence of these new states. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Rajana, you mentioned interesting point. It was about St. Petersburg. So we have a representative of Free Ingria movement. And, Moscovia, it's not even Russia, because Russia even stole the name of their country, because the formal name of Moscovia. And what we are doing here, we are making Moscovia small again. And if you make Moscovia small again, it will help to make United States great again. So we should understand it also. And the Russian Empire was founded in St. Petersburg region, and I think it's very good place to collapse it, to finish it in St. Petersburg region. So, Pavel, question for you. Ingria, like a region, it was for a long time a part of the Hansa League of the North Europe, and it's very important now. One of the influence and impact of Russia decolonization, it could be the safer Arctic region and Baltic region, because if Ingria and such called Kaliningrad region, which is Eastern Prussia, or Krolevets or Umberland, it could be different names for this region, become independent, we won't have the Moscovia in Baltic Sea like it was 400 years ago. And probably it will be more safer for Arctic, not only have the independent Sakha, Siberia, and Komi in this region, but also Ingria like a part of this Nordic Europe. So how probably Ingria could be mentioned in this process, how Ingria could become a partner for United States, and why, for your experience, people in other world don't recognize that there is a Russian Empire, not about only Russian people, because in Russia you have two words, Ruski and Rossiani, but in English you have only one, Russian, and people think that people from Pskov till Khabarovsk and Vladivostok are the same. But we know that this empire was not Russian Empire, was Romanov Empire, like Ottoman's empire was not empire of Turkey. And when now you know that people in Istanbul and Ankara, they are Turkish, nobody thinks that people in former colony of Ottoman Empire, like it was, for example, modern Israel or Algeria or North Macedonia or Bulgaria, they are not Ottomans or Turkish people. But everybody, unfortunately, mostly people think that people in Buryatia, Ichkeria, in other region are Russians, because they were part of Russian Empire or still a part of Russian Empire. So what your recept, how to change this mindset, and how Ingria could be a part of this process?
Okay, well, I'll try. There's too many questions you raised, but before I start, can I ask my slide to be visible, at least to the audience? And then let me start from the disclaimer. I'm Russian American, so I only represent Ingria here because I love that land and I believe it will be much better independent than as a part of Russia. And I'll try to explain in few words why. Well, first of all, Ingria, I better call it Ingria, not in Germanlandia.
I have it already there.
Good, yeah, you can see that. In Germanlandia is just too long, and so Ingria, that's the name. So that's the land on the east side of the Baltic Sea, bordering with Estonia on the west. And you can see how great is the geographical location of that land. So to add to that geographical location is the, good piece of Baltic Sea coast. It has a population of roughly, officially 8 million. 6.5 lives in St. Petersburg and the rest in the land. And the size of, say, Austria. That's the similar size European country to Ingria. It has, as I said, St. Petersburg, which is on the other slide, which is the second largest city in Russian Federation currently. So it can be the thing on its own easily. And a little bit of economy. The GDP, annual GDP per capita in the region is currently $25,000, which is more than in Bulgaria and similar to Poland. So that's what it is. And again, economically, it has two most important ports of Russian Federation through which the export goes. All the oil goes mainly from Primorsk. They're built, the new terminal's been built, and so that's the oil's flow from the Siberia, where it goes to the whole world. Also in Ust-Luga, that's where the Northern Stream starts. So that's where the gas flows into, used to flow to Europe. So for the independent Ingria, that will be already a great base to be economically sovereign and powerful. In addition to that, there are great universities, institutions. It's all been built there. It's already there. So people are educated and ready to be part of Europe. So, but where we are, looking into the history, yes, that's right. Peter the Great grabbed this land from Sweden. Ingria was a part of Sweden. It was a province of Kingdom of Sweden, with the capital in Narva, that city which I love.
So we also should make Sweden great again.
Well, with the help of Sweden, I hope, because Swedish people, Finnish people, they understand this land, and I'm hopeful that they will support the independence when the right time comes. Because on the other hand, we don't have much of nations in the land. Why? Because the Soviet Union and Stalin did a great job in just exterminating Ingria Finns, Vod, Izhora, Veps. These are the now ingenious people of Ingria. We don't have many of them, but we can base the national identity for the whole region on the history of this land, because again, it started as Ingria back in the Middle Ages. I mean, Yaroslav the Wise, the great Rus, one of the first monarchs, get married to the Ingigerd, the princess of Sweden, and that is why Ingria is Ingria. That's from where the name came, because in exchange for being a happy husband of a Swedish princess, Yaroslav the Wise gave her the land north from Novgorod. So it's a very long history of great independent country. So we just need to understand this and work on this.
Thanks, Pavel. Hope Ingria will be a part of process. When big Russia, big problem, small Russia, small problem, and no Russia, probably not problem, some new problem, but not such a big. And the case of Ingria and also other future states where ethnical Russian live, like Siberia or Pacific Ocean Federation or Ural Republic, is also very important, because it should be not only self-determination independence for captive nation like Buryat, Sakha, Chechen, Cherkess, but also for people Russian, like Paul Goebel said, people in Khabarovsk and Vladivostok, they are different from people in St. Petersburg or Pskov. So this multi-states for ethnical Russia is also a very important part. Thanks. And the next question will be for you, Adele. It will be a little bit about the past and a little bit about common times and future. Here in United States, before, after Second World War, United States was the country which support decolonization. Yeah, even we know when Roosevelt and Truman have some with Churchill agreements, they say that British Empire shouldn't be British Empire in future, and people in the United States supports nations who were fighting for their independence whole the world from different empire, French, Holland, Portugal, Spanish, and so on. But unfortunately, in the United States, a lot of people didn't recognize that Russia is the last colonial empire in Europe, and they didn't recognize that Russia make a real genocide of your nation. Yeah, like it was with some other nation. People know about their situation with Jewish people, with Armenian people, but not a lot of them know about the genocide of Cherkess people. And not a lot of people, unfortunately, know what Russia did in Chechnya, in Ichkeria. Here in 19th, were support for the Balkan nations, and United States support Bosnia people, support Kosovo people, but unfortunately, at the same moment, they didn't support Ichkeria, which never were part of Russian such-called federation for their self-determination. So my question is, how you like both Circassian and American people and Jordan people, yeah, you have this different living experience and diaspora of Circassian people, which are very active, as I know, in also not only New Jersey but in United States and other countries, could be a part of puzzle which will change this mindset also in the United States and will provide these bridges for your people on the ground, which are now under the occupation of Moscow. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, and I would refer to the spirit of freedom that you mentioned that came from the American Revolution and earlier from the French Revolution, that all countries in the world, all nations, they abide by that, they embrace that that value, and every nation, every people of the world want to be free and have self-determination. And unfortunately for the Circassian case, that Circassians were living in their homeland before 1864, when the Russian Empire wanted to have Circassia without Circassians. The war that took approximately exactly 101 years eventually made Circassians, or the Russians deported the Circassians, the 90% of them, to the Ottoman Empire. And 10% of them, they stayed in their homeland, but eventually the Russians had to displace them beyond the Kuban River at certain time. And they just deleted the country of Circassia even from the map. And now Circassians, 90% of them are living abroad in approximately 50 countries of the world. They are looking forward one day to restore their original country. They have their legitimate rights of freedom and independence. The problem is the Russians are preventing the Circassians from going back home. They started after the Soviet Union collapsed, that some Circassians were able to go and to repatriate and to return to their original homeland. But later on, especially after the Chechen War and after Putin came to power, it seems he stopped that trend, and they did not want Circassians to go back. They wanted to make good relations with them, the way they are as diaspora people in their new homelands that they are living in. They wanted to encourage them to stay there. They even helped them with their associations, but they don't want those people to think even to go back to homeland and to restore their original rights. Now, the most important thing, I think, that Europe as a priority got the duty of supporting Circassians, because Circassia is part of Europe. It's in the southeastern part of Europe. So if the Europeans do not support them, who else is going to support them? The most important thing there, that the Circassian problem was forgotten by even the people, they are Circassians, or the people who lived with the Circassians, or they were part in their problem. Like I would say, the Adrianople Treaty, or Treaty of Adrianople, that was signed by the Russian Empire and the Ottoman Empire in the 19th century, in 1829. Without the Circassians, no. That the Ottoman Empire gave the Caucasus coast to the Russian Empire. And later on, that helped Russia to use this as a weapon to occupy and annex Circassia.
So 1 minute, if you could, sorry. 1 minute more, yeah.
Okay, so what the Ottomans did, they did not help the Circassians by letting them in. They helped the Russians to let the people go out of their homeland. Now, in regard to the United States, I think, is the leader of the world in freedom, and they have a duty as well to help Circassians beside other peoples and nations of present Russia, or the subjugated peoples and nations of Russia, who are looking forward to restore their legitimate rights. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And I think it's a great point that we shouldn't have Moscovia not only in the Baltic Sea, but also in the Black Sea. So it should be come back for the something like 15th century. But nevertheless, it will be also win for Moscow, because Moscow could become the normal post-industrial city, not colonial empire, and all former metropolia, London, Paris, Amsterdam, Vienna, Istanbul go that side, and people who live now in former metropolia, they live in better without colonies. So hope not to see this any Russian or Moscow flag on the Circassian land. Thanks a lot for each of you. Before we'll have the question from audience, I have one more question. Yeah, for everybody, for you, but I will ask you to be shortly if it's possible. The question is, want we it or don't want we it the axis of authorians, this cringe axis of the China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and these satellites like Maduro, Lukashenko, and other not very good guys, they are already have a war. Not only against Ichkeria or Syria, Ukraine, they have a war against their rule-based order, against the Euro-Atlantic cooperation, and they wanted to break it. And unfortunately, what we have now, they are Moscow-Beijing bridge working to polarize people here in the United States, and they want to have these social conflicts. But your country could become not a front line for this war, but become a frontier. So your future independent state could be the part of the collective architecture security new puzzle. Yeah, and also everybody knows. I hope here that there is no Russia, or better say Moscovia, gas, oil, as royal metals, uranium, or gold. They are all Buryats, Sakha, Chechens, Cherkess, and so on. So how, probably, if you have just one sentences or 1 minute, what your nations, what your future independent states need now from United States, from European Union, from Ukraine, from Poland, from Finland, to be success in your fighting for independence? Money, resources, culture, diplomatic, recognizing what are the most needed for your nation now to make some uprising, or probably some demonstration, or some way to the freedom to become independent much more quickly than it could be if you will wait in when Moscow will collapse itself. Thanks. Asset, Rajana, Pavel, and Adel will be thankful, and then we have the question from audience.
Well, the first and most important thing, I think, is the change in the vision. For many years, Chechnya has been seen, and the fight of the Chechen people for the independence and for its rights has been seen, treated in the West as, a separatist guerrilla movement, an internal affair of Russia, internal disturbances. Although it's completely wrong, and it was never a separatist movement, because we were never part of the Russian Federation. Separatist means you separate from someone. We were never part of the Russian Federation. We did not accept the Russian constitution. We adopted our constitution in 1992, 1 year earlier than the Russian Federation. We never signed the Federation Treaty with the Russian Federation. We adopted the Declaration of the Sovereignty on 27 November 1990 in full accordance with the Soviet law at that time, and in full accordance with the norms and principles of the international law. And we signed the peace treaty with Russian Federation in 1997, where both parties recognized each other as the subjects of the international law. So the separatist guerrilla movement was completely wrong, because what happened in Chechnya, it was an armed conflict between two states, and the Russia recognized the Chechen state by signing a peace treaty with Chechnya. So there should be a change in the vision, especially here in the West. And I think that the most important thing is to treat Chechnya as an independent state, because all the facts showed, and all the political processes that happened in Chechnya show that it acted as an independent state. And by the way, Ukraine recognized the occupation of the Chechen territory on 18 October 2022, and it would be very nice if the United States and its allies followed the example of Ukraine and recognized the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria as an occupied state. I find it's very important that to mention also that it would be also very nice, it would be very beneficial if the United States and its allies recognized the Chechen government in exile, because it would send a powerful message to the other authoritarian regimes that the US is supporting those who are fighting for freedom and not those who are fighting against freedom. Helping the peoples of North Caucasus to get their independence, to get rid of the Russian domination, recognizing the occupation of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria as Ukraine did in 2022, recognizing the Chechen government in exile. It would be a moral victory, not only a moral victory, but it would be also a strategic and economic one. So, and I think in short, engaging with the free North Caucasus, it's not just about only a regional policy. It's about shaping the future of global stability, democracy, and economic opportunity. So it's really important to support the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria and not to be afraid of Russia. Change the vision, change the actions, and really open the door for a new cooperation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Rajana, you will say, and I want to one more time mention that vocabulary is very important, because there is aren't separatists. There is a people who are captive nation, and here in the United States, by the Republic President of Eisenhower, there is a law about captive nation. So we are speaking about decolonization, about self-determination, about the national struggle movement for independence. And Rajana.
Thank you. There are a lot of fears about China. And many people are afraid of China, and most of these people actually live in the west of Siberia, of Russia, because I mean, I am from Siberia, from Buryatia, and we've been neighbors with China for centuries and thousands of years. We are not afraid of China, and we don't think that somehow if Russia collapses, China would take this land, like our land, because China actually always adheres to the law and treaties. And we were always considered separate. I mean, like once a part of Mongolian Empire, but after that, there was a treaty.
What you need to have independent Buryatia now?
Okay, just a moment. I will gather my thoughts. So we would need, as I would support Assad in this, stop looking at us through Russian lens, and stop taking this Orientalist approach to us, because we are actually subjects now of policy, and we can act, and we need to be heard. So also there was before mentioned that there's not enough studies. We actually encourage studies, especially from think tanks, political science, economics, to study these vast regions of Russia, the captive nations that live under Russian rule for so long. But now we are gathering and we are acting to gain independence. That's why I think that it is very important that activists from diasporas are being heard and actually cooperating. 2 years ago, in 2003, I took part in the event, online event organized by the Atlantic Council that was devoted to the discussion on future scenarios for Russia in the light of the failed attempted coup by Prigozhin. And it was just one very positive example of such cooperation, and this forum and Jamestown Foundation that gives us the floor is another example. But I would encourage more involvement and actually cooperation from your side as well. Not only because we are willing to cooperate, and we need to be taken into account.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Anjana. And Pavel, how United States, European Union, and other free nations could help Ingria to make Moscow small again?
Okay, I'll try to be as quick as possible. But I think what we should ask United States experts, government, to do is to think and possibly change the foreign policy of the United States towards the Soviet Union, because the policy as it is current, and as it was for many years, it's based on the presumption that it is in the best national security interests of the United States to preserve the Russian Federation. They wanted to preserve Soviet Union. They failed. They now want to preserve Russian Federation. It is wrong opinion from the, for today's world. They should support captured nations. They should support the will of people to be independent from Moscow. And this is in the best interest of the United States. That's my opinion. And that's what I'm asking, and we should ask from our leaders.
Thanks a lot, Pavel. Adel, and what Cherkessian people need to become independent again, because Cherkessia was independent. We also should remember that Russia conquered land, and the all your nation have the history of sovereignty and independence, and probably that independent Buryatia, Ichkeria, which already independent but occupied it, Cherkessia, Ingria could be the great reference for captive nation by Beijing, like East Turkestan we have represented, like Tibetan people, like Manchu people who have represented here, like Antonia people, to also become independent from this communist party. So, Adel?
Circassians are looking forward for their independence. The way from the way you look at it, the most important thing is to have awareness. Awareness to who? To all the, I would say, countries, peoples, of what is going on in regard to Circassia and maybe some other peoples and nations of the North Caucasus and the subjugated peoples of Russia. They need the civil war to be stopped upon what Russia is doing between these people within Russia, and to stop this Ukrainian war that is taking the lives of so many people. To understand for these Europeans and Americans and the rest of the world that what is going on now in Ukraine against the Ukrainians by Russia has happened before with Circassia and with Chechnya, with other peoples and nations of the Caucasus and beyond in the past. But it's only a repetitive dynamo is going on. Putin is representing now maybe Ivan the Terrible again of the 21st century. So if peoples and nations and the world, maybe the European Union, the American government, the United Nations, know exactly what has happened, and they have to communicate with the Circassians to find out the way to restore their legitimate rights.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And we have questions. I think time for 2-3 questions. Dear Yad, Franz, and you, please. Okay. Okay, we'll be quick. Idiot.
Thank you, Oleg. I said 2 things I want to mention. You are 100% right. Circassian, Chechens, Ingush, and Dagestanis, they were never part of the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, or anything like this. As a matter of fact, when Chechens at one time, I remember many years ago, it was suggested that they apply in the United Nations for indigenous people status. The Chechens refused to do this because that would give Russia the ultimate control over the indigenous people. So the Chechens refused to become recognized internationally as indigenous people, so as they would not fall under the control of the state, in that case, Russia. Number 2, and more importantly, I wanted to tell you, there is only one Chechen government, and that is headed by Prime Minister Ahmed Zakayev. He is the leader, and he is the one who is representing Chechens internationally. The one in Grozny is not a Chechen government, is a proxy of Moscow controlling Chechnya. So if people want to talk to the Chechen people at any time, there is a Prime Minister of Chechnya in Europe who is willing to talk and address any issues related to the future, not only Chechnya, but also other nations of the Caucasus. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, but it wasn't a question, but thanks for this remark. So we covered time for questions, very short, for France and for Arkady, and we should over because we were late starting, so sorry. Dear Josh, excuse me, could you give the microphone for the France? Yeah?
Hi, Franz Siedelmeier. I have a very practical question. Sorry.
Yep, and
Switch it on.
yeah,
It's on.
yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just practical question. The autonomy the independence of the people, not a question at all. My question is, how do you practically achieve that? I mean, you're going to be active on your own. Do you see that possibility without, taking up arms? What is your plan?
Yeah, please be shortly, if it's possible. I understand that it's a long question, but please be shortly. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, our government, in fact, we have the General Representation Bureau of Chechen Republic of Ichkeria in Kyiv, where our defense minister is on permanent basis in Kyiv, and our army is fighting against Russian occupants with the Ukrainians, and our army, the Chechen army and the Armed Forces Chechen Republic of Ichkeria, they are dislocated in Ukraine, and Ukraine is helping a lot, and it's our ally in the struggle.
I understand. I'm talking home.
So we need, once there is a shake in the regime, Putin's regime, we need exactly 3 days. Chechens need exactly 3 days to go back and take the control of our territory, because we have all the institutions, we have our army, we have the support from Ukraine. The only thing, there should be a regime change in Russia.
Yeah, thanks, Rojana.
Thank you for this question. Yes, the desired outcome would be, of course, controlled dissolution of Russia. And that's why we need the involvement of global community in that. But of course, it doesn't mean that we sit on our just all idly. No, we are actually moving towards this goal. We are making roadmaps. We are constructing these networks. And there are cells also in Buryatia, in Mongolia, in other countries. And we are negotiating with people inside Buryatia about the future. And as I said, yes, we only need several days to act when the window opens. Thank you.
Thank you. So we should be prepared. Yeah.
I honestly have no illusions that Ingria will raise by itself. That has to be pushed from outside. If a win of Ukraine in this war or death of Putin, so I would...
Of those?
Both simultaneously. But what I want us to do, and we can do it now, is to advance the name of Ingria in the world. So what we can do peacefully, actually, all the people of St. Petersburg and the area, just to push for the change of name, because it's still named after Lenin, believe you or not. So that would be the first step, and then hopefully the world will recognize Ingria, at least as a point.
Thank you. Ingria будет свободной, we know it. Adel?
In regard to Circassia, it's important that diaspora and the people living in their homeland to be given the opportunity to move and to be active for their future and independence.
Thanks a lot. And last question from Reinhard. You wanted to know somebody else? Because we have just 1 minute. Okay. I will do this.
Yuri Kimiotek from ABN. My question bounces off the liberation question. In 1921, the Ukrainian People's Republic went into exile with their government. In 1992, it gave it back to not a national government, but the Soviet government, which had traded flags, especially under the leadership of Kravchuk, a lot of the Soviet leftovers. The question is, especially, we were speaking about these governors switching sides away from Moscow, how governments in exile would be able to contest the claim of those governments on the ground, especially if there is contested ethnic or popular support for these government changes. Дякую.
Yes. Asset, Rojana, Pavel, and Adel.
You see, the Chechen government in exile, it is the roots of the government they're in the political processes that took place in 1991, and the government was formed after the Chechen people expressed in free democratic elections and it expressed its free will to be independent from the Soviet to get the freedom from the Soviet Union. So our government represents the only legitimate government of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria that exists. Any other government, there is no any other government. Now there is an occupation administration, and the occupation administration represents the interests of the Russian Federation and the so-called the leader of the Chechen, the leader of the Russian occupation administration. He does not represent the will of the Chechen people, and he was not elected by the Chechen people. And the so-called Kadyrov, he was appointed by Putin, who came to power bombing buildings in Moscow and in Moscow. So there is no any other government, the legitimate government, except the Chechen government in exile. You know, when the Second War happened and the Germans took over France, there was the government of Charles de Gaulle was formed, and this government in exile was recognized by the United States, by US, and later it came back to France and it continued. The government of Vichy could not claim that it was a legitimate government of France. No, it was supported by the Nazis. So I don't see why there should be a problem with the Chechen government in exile, which represents the legitimate force of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria, and which was in 1991. The Chechen government was elected after the Chechen people expressed its free will. Does it answer the question?
Thanks. Probably someone else says Czechoslovakia, Poland during the Second World War is the same with independent Ichkeria, which occupied by this. Not, in Vichy regime they have the general who wins the First World War even, and they have some legitimacy, but Kadyrov have no legitimacy. It's just a terrorist who...
It's just a puppet, the Kadyrov, it's a continuation of Putin. Putin created Kadyrov according to himself. It's like in Frankenstein created the monster, then the monster is there. So it's exactly Kadyrov is the creation of Putin, and it's not a Chechen phenomenon. Kadyrov does not represent the Chechen people. He's just a puppet who is defending protecting the interests of Putin and of the Russian occupation.
Yes, thanks. Sorry, Adel and Paolo have just one remark, so I give it for the lady, for the Rajana. So the last word for you.
I'll be very short also. Yes, I agree. The same goes to other heads of the republics. For example, Tsidenov is not a president elected.
Called leader of Buryatia.
Yes, he was first of all he was appointed, and the second of all he is a military criminal who's going to be actually. He's awaiting trial, I would say, and that's why it's not a legitimate government there. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for this panel, and we continue next one without break, and make Moscow small again. Thanks.